what are we doing? What do we need? How do we prevent you from going farther in the system? And so far, it's proven very effective.
It's one of our new intervention tools that the officers have available for them as they work through calls for service.
Hello, and welcome to City Law, City Justice, the show that brings you all the happenings at TPD. I'm Dave Northway, your host, and today we are talking about a new program we have in Tallahassee and Leon County, the Adult Civil Citation. Here to explain the ins and outs of the program are Mr. Greg Frost and Mr. Tom Olk. Thanks both for stopping by today.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Dave.
Appreciate you coming by for just a few minutes.
Thanks for the invite.
So, Greg, if you can kind of give us the 10,000-foot overview, what is the Adult Civil Citation Program?
Well, you know, succinctly put, it's something that has never been done before in this country. So it's something that I think we can attribute to the leadership of the Second Judicial Circuit. Let me be very clear with that. We have the approval of the Chief Judge for the circuit, the State Attorney, the Sheriff, the Chief of Police, the Public Defender's Office. So the leadership of the criminal justice system is behind what we're trying to do. And what we're hoping to accomplish is find a better way of handling the first-time offenders who commit a simple crime, trespass, criminal mischief. You know, it's not the violent offenders, it's not the repeat offenders. What we're trying to do is take those adults who, by virtue of they're in personal crisis because they're drug abusers, they may have something emotionally going on, they may have mental health issues, but they commit a crime. And we know that the criminal justice system for those first-time offenders really isn't geared and isn't designed to provide the appropriate intervention services to hopefully get them to the point where that's the only crime that they ever commit. So by virtue of the experience we've had over about the last 17 years with the Juvenile Civil Citation Program and the success that it's had under Mr. Olk's leadership around the state, we discussed, why can't we make this applicable to adults? And the answer was, we can, we should. And that's exactly what we've tried to launch here in Tallahassee and Leon County, is let's find a better way of dealing with those first-time misdemeanor offenders.
All right. Wow. Well, I guess that's where Mr. Olk comes into the to the fold. Can you explain to us, first of all, what do you do in your day-to-day job, and then how you're involved with this program?
Well, pretty much my day-to-day job is managing about 4,200 clients that come through our system every year. Unfortunately, the preponderance of those individuals are involved in the criminal justice system. And what we attempt to do is try to do a comprehensive assessment, try to find out what's wrong, what their needs are, and get them to the appropriate level of care as quickly as possible. And as Greg mentioned, the juvenile civil citation, we've been able to hone our skills after 16 or 17 years. A little known fact about the civil citation here in Leon County, we've had over 5,000 individuals who have not recidivated that went through the program. Now, had we not had a civil citation program, they would have had a long arrest record. So this helps them continue their career, get into the military, nursing schools. They're no longer held back because of a relatively minor offense. And we've basically done the same thing. We've gotten a little more sophisticated with the evaluation and the services that we offer. We've developed an online program that targets interventions. And so far, we've gotten some great feedback from the participants at this level. So really, the intent is to find out very early what's happening. It's kind of a you know, as you go through on the highway of life, if you will, you're at an intersection, and it's time to say, well, let's take a look at what's happening. I mean, if someone all of a sudden is at a point where they're being arrested, and it can affect the rest of their life, if you will, that's a very serious time. Most people think that they're indestructible, they're not really doing anything wrong, and all of a sudden, now they're facing something that could affect their entire life. And so this is an opportunity for us to sit down and say, look, what are we doing? What do we need? How do we prevent you from going farther in the system? And so far, it's proven very effective.
You know, one of the key differences, and Tom, you hit on it, is this is pre-arrest.
Right, I think that needs to be.
It truly is a civil citation. when, let's assume, you've done something stupid and the officer is there with you at 2 o'clock in the morning and you end up getting an adult civil citation. You don't have a criminal arrest record at that point if you complete, all of the sanctions that go along with that citation. So now, rather than having an arrest record that is going to ruin the rest of your life potentially, that is taken away. That's no longer an issue. But yet, on the other hand, justice is still served because you're still held accountable. There is a victim to what you have done. So one of the things we've tried to do very carefully with this is make sure that the role of the victim and the rights of the victim and their preferences are really taken into consideration, as part of that civil citation process.
And I want to make sure for our viewers that we're very clear. This is a brand new program. We've been doing the juvenile civil citation for years.
Correct.
17 plus years now.
Correct.
We've been very successful with that. But this is a program that we're rolling out here in Leon County in the Tallahassee area that is being overseen by Mr. Oak's department, the Tallahassee Police Department, all the surrounding different areas, the other law enforcement in the area is also involved. And it's a brand new program that's just coming out, and that's why we're here today to kind of give a brief overview of what it actually entails.
That's correct. I think it's very good that that you've had it. You're having us here on the show because we would like the community to understand that we do have something new. It's something that, in my mind, and I've been involved in developing new programs and managing law enforcement departments for probably close to the last 30 years. This really is something that sets the criminal justice system on its ear. Never been done before in this country. We are hoping that it's going to have the outcomes that we expect it to have, which is individuals will not necessarily get hit with the sledgehammer of the criminal justice system, that they'll be able to get those intervention services through providers such as Disc Village. But yet, on the other hand, there's still that sense of justice. They're doing community service hours. They're paying restitution back to the victim. This is by no means a get-out-of-jail-free card.
That is very important. We would want our viewers to understand that we're not proposing something that says, hey, if you make a mistake and the law gets involved, that hey, we're just going to slap you on the wrist and walk away. Correct. There is an actual process that is being vetted out, and it's worked through and been approved by all of the entities that are involved.
And I think it's also important to recognize that we're not taking violent offenders.
Right.
Okay, so these are nonviolent offenders, and this is an onerous process. I mean, we do a fairly comprehensive assessment. It probably takes 25 or 30 hours to complete the courses, plus you've got community service hours. This is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Everyone is held accountable. When they get through this process, they know they've hopefully learned a great deal, and they won't recidivate.
Right, and recidivism, for reviewers who may not understand that term, means to once again commit a crime after you have been punished for that crime.
Yes.
In the previous past. So we're hoping that this program will then move in that direction, where you learn your lesson, you move on, and we never see you again in the criminal justice system, which is very important because, as you said, it can be detrimental to your long-term goals in life, if you will, if you have any specific types of jobs that you would like to get or goals you're looking for.
Well, and if we reduce recidivism, we've also improved public safety. Those are future crimes that you potentially would have committed, that if we are able to get you turned around where you're now on track, you're becoming a productive citizen, those are crimes that don't occur. So there's a very positive impact on public safety.
Well, I thank you both for taking time out from your busy schedules to come and visit with us today. I know you got lots to do, obviously, with this new program. So we're going to go to break, and we'll hopefully have you back again at in the last of the segments here.
Great, thanks, Dave.
We'll be right back on City Law, City Justice. Hello and welcome back to City Law, City Justice. Today we're talking about a brand new program in the Tallahassee and Leon County area, the Adult Civil Citation Program. Joining me now are Jordan Cowart. Thank you for coming, sir.
Appreciate it.
And
Thank you.
Captain Chris Summers with Tallahassee PD.
Morning, Dave.
So, Mr. Cowart, tell us what your job is. What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
My job is acting as a civil citation supervisor. With this village, we are a part of the Civil Citation Network that provides this service to the citizens of Leon County here in Tallahassee. So, you know, most of my job is being in contact with TPD, making sure the referral process goes smooth, the information gets transferred and then inputted into the databases that, you know, manage and report the information in the system.
Okay. Captain Summers, you are in our patrol division right now. And what would that entail for your position?
Right now, we're shared duties with another captain. We divide the city into north and south districts, and we're primarily responsible for first responder services and patrol operations. And
the Adult Civil Citation Program is part of falls underneath your cone of responsibility, I guess.
Right. It's one of our new intervention tools that the officers have available for them as they work through calls for service. We're probably the largest contributor out of the police department. Our investigations division is also capable of utilizing the program.
All right, and so on that note, let's talk a little bit about how the actual civil citation would be issued or used in a patrol session and also through this village. How are we using them at this point?
Primarily, you know, when the officer encounters a violation, and we'll say out in the street, out in the community, as they're first working through the call to determine is this an event where an arrest is likely, and they cross the probable cause threshold, then they'll look at the offender or the subject and determine eligibility for the program. And I think Greg alluded to it earlier that it's a first-time offender diversion. And they'll be able to make that determination through the various databases that we work with and determine eligibility.
So you can never have been arrested before, in other words, in order
as
to
an
be
adult.
Eligible as an adult
Right.
for this program.
Correct.
Okay, and then what are some of the other parameters of it, Jordan? I know there are certain crimes that we're using, certain crimes we're not using, things like that.
Correct, correct. Once the officer has determined that the offender is eligible for the program, a citation is issued, and from that point, our agency receives a copy of that citation, and that information is kept in a database that is separate and apart from the CJIS system that the law enforcement officers use for any, you know, prior background or prior arrest. So it really is, you know, set and apart in and of itself. And so once that information is collected, the offender has a certain amount of time, 7 days, to contact us and schedule an assessment.
And it's on the offender's responsibility. We're not reaching out to them, or you're not reaching out to them, I apologize, and saying, hey, come on in, or we need to get in touch with you. They have to make that choice whether or not they're going to continue with the program or not.
Correct. And from the very beginning, once the citation is issued, the offender has the option not to participate, and the other option would be receive an NTA or be arrested for that offense.
And an NTA for our viewers is?
A notice to appear.
So that would mean you get arrested, but you don't actually go to court. You would go to an appearance in court.
Correct.
On your own. They'll set a schedule for you. You show up on your own.
Correct.
But you're still under arrest at that time.
Technically,
and
yes.
you go into the system that we're trying to keep you out of.
Exactly.
With the adult civil citation. Okay, so I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, and so then they're diverted from the system, and they come and see one of our counselors once they have an appointment set up, and at that point, we do a full GAIN assessment on them. The GAIN is one of the gold standard assessment tools in the field that we use. That information is then reported, and we are able to do a targeted, individualized intervention plan with the offender at that point, which says you have to complete maybe a chemical education intervention, which can be delivered online or through a handout if someone is not capable of the online technicalities, and along with other sanctions they have to perform in order to complete the program successfully.
Okay. So, Captain Summers, what are some of the crimes that we are using this for, that we are finding as police officers are being committed, but then we're saying that you would fit into these parameters? What are some of those things that, if it was me, I could expect to be issued a, not expect, but hope to get issued a civil citation?
So far in the first few months, the majority of cases have fallen under, if they were arrested, they would be charged with possession of alcohol by a person under 21. Possession of a controlled, possession of marijuana, less than 20 grams, small percentage of paraphernalia, and petty theft.
Drug paraphernalia, you mean?
Yes.
Something like glass pipes, things like that are
Yes.
used to smoke illegal drugs? Okay.
Yeah, thanks. And we've used some referrals for petty theft and criminal mischief, where it doesn't reach beyond the threshold amounts.
And criminal mischief can be anything from graffiti to breaking things that don't belong to you. You destroy
Correct.
a mailbox of a neighborhood stone box
Right.
and you get caught for that, things like that. So those crimes then are not actually violent in nature. They're not against another person, things like that. But they may involve some restitution. And that is handled? We've talked about through this.
Correct.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
A part of the program is, accounting and being accountable for the actions that the offender makes. And so our system is able to collect the payments that are necessary for restitution and keep track of those and make sure that the victims are made whole by any items that were taken or broken. And so they're basically fulfilling the sanctions of their citation by fulfilling those restitution requirements.
So let's say this. Let's say I start the adult civil citation program. I make my appointment. I get all of my sanctions, and I
Right.
say, okay, I'm going to do them.
Right.
But then I forget about it. I
And it
don't
drags
do them. I
out.
drag it out. I
Exactly.
don't do what I'm supposed to do. Is there any repercussion for this, or do I just kind of blend into the masses and I'm never seen again?
Actually, you do not. A case manager's job is to oversee the cases that are assigned to them. And through the system, which is called ELIS, Enterprise Learning Intelligence System, it's able to track and notify the case manager based on a certain amount of time that goes by. So any inactivity that goes on in the system is reported to the case manager, and they contact the participant in this case to follow up, encourage them to keep going. But remember, at any time, if they choose to fail their sanctions, they terminate from the program based on their own wishes, and then an NTA would then be in effect through the proper police protocol.
And
So
it would come
it-
babe to us.
I was going to say, in other words, it'll be turned back over to the police. We will go
Correct.
and find you and arrest you at this point.
Yes.
And you can also choose to be arrested instead of taking this adult civil citation. Whereas
Yes.
someone may say, I don't agree with the fact that I'm going to do an adult civil citation. I would prefer to be arrested. You can do that as well. It's your choice when it comes to that point.
Yes, the officers will outline what the program is about. They give them a pamphlet that has a little more information, the contact numbers, and it's an informed decision that
Right.
they make on scene on what they want to do. I want to just touch base real quickly back on the eligible offenses. We did include battery and assault that is non-domestic in nature. And one of the reasons that we made that decision was in a discussion with a group of officers was that a big component of this program has to do with that assessment that the participants will go through. And battery and assault and some of the other crimes are impulsive behavior
Right.
related cases. And what we believe and what we see, we'll think the evaluation will bear it out, is that this is the first step that they will actually get access to this type of evaluation prior to going a little deeper into the criminal justice system, where it then becomes court ordered.
Right. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this segment. We appreciate both of you coming
Thank you.
out. We will be right back with more on the Adult Civil Citation Program here on City Law, City Justice.
I miss eating dinner with my family in our own kitchen.
550 children in Tallahassee are missing the simple joys of being a kid.
miss having my own bed. I miss having our own house.
550 kids missing the simple comfort of having a place to call home. Join the Change for Change program by simply adding a monthly contribution to your city utility account. For the cost of just a gallon of milk, you can help all our kids enjoy the simple, extraordinary things about just being a kid.
Properly inflating my tires burns less fuel and saves me money on gas. Yeah, I'm saving Mother Nature from pollution, but more importantly, she saved me 11 bucks. Ow!
Environmental defense, get green.
By keeping my car regularly tuned, I save money on gas and repairs. That also means cleaner air. You know, feels good to help save the cash, planet.
Environmental defense, get green. For more tips, go to getgreen.com.
Hello and welcome back to City Law, City Justice. I'm Dave Northway, your host, and joining me once again about the Adult Civil Citation Program are Mr. Tom Oak and Greg Frost with TPD. Thanks for coming back to us.
Pleasure.
So one of the things that I guess I would ask if I was a viewer is, where is the money coming from to get this program going? Because obviously there are some costs associated with this program.
There are. That's a great question, Dave. And that's one of the unique features of this. It's not very often you have a public-private partnership where an organization like this village comes to a government and says, hey, you know, there's a little bit of a problem here, we can help you with that, and oh, by the way, it's not going to cost you anything. There is no tax dollars involved with the civil citation program. The way Mr. Olk has structured it is if you receive a civil citation, then you pay a fee. And obviously we'll let him talk a little bit about that as to how he's structured that. I think the important thing, though, for our community to understand is this is not a, if you can pay, you can get a civil citation. The fee that you will pay to go through the program is almost identical to what you would pay if you went through the criminal court system. Everyone that goes, including the offenses that are first-time misdemeanors, you know, the types of offenses that we're targeting, you would pay court costs, you would pay whatever the fine is that's associated to your offense. So it's, you know, dollar for dollar, it's a very comparable fee.
Okay, so and speaking of those fees, what are some more of the, I guess, ins and outs of those fees that we're talking about here?
Well, some of it, there is some variability. For example, if you're a substance abuser, for example, everyone that comes into the program is given a initial drug screen. That way we have a baseline. And one of the conditions of probation is that you'll not use drugs while you're in this program. And so if there'll be 3 drug screens on an average. Some of them will be random based on how well you get along with the counselor or what other contraindications there may be. And of course, if you're coming back with more positives, then we'll be testing more, so your cost will go up. So the participant is responsible for all the fees, and basically if you're not complying with the program, the cost will go up. So the average cost for someone going through the program is right around $250 to $300. And at some point in time, if that same substance abuser is not abstaining from the use of substances, of course they'll be violated. So right. We don't. You know, we're very serious about this. We're here to help you if you need it. If you don't take advantage of it, then the city has another plan for you. And
that plan, unfortunately, in this case, is going to be get arrested.
That's
because,
correct.
Again, you're continuing on in your ways that are breaking the law, correct. And we're not going to tolerate, which I think is very important to know for our viewers, that we're not saying it's okay to commit these types of crimes. It's something else. It's just a different option that we have to use, but if you're not going to take advantage of that service, that's correct. Then you can go the other way as well. Right. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think the nice thing with the way the program is structured, Dave, is it allows replication. It's something that we're building a model here, again, first in the nation, that will hopefully allow for flexible implementation in other jurisdictions, and I think that's something that Tom and his group have been working on over the last several months.
We're actually working with about 5 jurisdictions right now. I think that, in fact, we have a website, and several of the
Wait a minute. What's that website? Let's hear it.
CivilCitationNetwork.com.
Okay.
So please visit it. We have a lot of information there. So we've actually been found by 2 other jurisdictions that we're working with now that actually found the website and called us. And their concern is essentially the same as ours. We've got a lot of young people in the community. An arrest record is a life-changing event, and especially having alternatives like this is something positive. So we're kind of excited about it. I mean, when people are calling you to say, how do we become part of this? Right. This is something that we need in our community. It's a good thing. So.
And we keep hitting on the arrest record is a bad thing to have. I was 18 years old at one time in my life. I think at 18, if you said to me, well, if you get arrested for this misdemeanor crime, this petty theft or this trespassing, I would probably say, why is that going to affect me? Can we maybe explain to our viewers why it's so important not to have this record of getting quote unquote arrested for something that's petty?
Tom, you want to handle that?
Sure. Like I said, we deal with about 4,200 people a year, and especially with the juvenile program, as they progress in their adulthood, what's happened is that the penalties for these crimes are far more severe than most people realize. Many people are rejected by military service. I think I mentioned earlier, nursing school, graduate school.
They reject them if
they reject them for these. And in fact, we have, it was interesting, the first civil citation that we actually gave was given to a graduate student at FSU who wanted to go to law school. And when he came in, he goes, his thing, where did you guys come from? I've never heard of this. This is wonderful. What do I got to do? So he was very pleased. And like I was saying earlier, is that most people think they're indestructible, that they'll never get caught. And all of a sudden, when this happens, their whole career flashes before their eyes. And that's what we've seen with a lot of the individuals we're working with, is that the realization, hey, guess what? This could be a big problem, and it brings them back home to reality very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly. And we mentioned that they're making partnerships with different jurisdictions. We're reaching out to them and going in that direction. So we're hoping this will take off then. We are the first one in the nation, which is very important, I think. There are going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be some working things out. But I think in the end, we're going in the right direction.
The other important part that I think everyone needs to realize is we've got a Department of Justice grant that we've applied for that will do an independent evaluation of this entire process. And I think some of the jurisdictions that we're working with right now say, look, as soon as you get some information, send it to us. And so far, the data that we have is very promising. But having an independent evaluation, especially from the Department of Justice, I think will go a long way in fostering the adoption of these programs nationwide.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, but I did want to let you, if I've missed anything, because gosh knows I don't know everything about the program, what is something that our viewers need to know that we haven't told them as of yet? Anything? Have we given them everything they need?
Well, I think one of the key points is, if again, looking at the viewers and what they may be interested in, is whether you get a civil citation or not depends on the offense, first and foremost, if it's an eligible offense. But secondly, it's your demeanor. The police officer on the scene at 2 o'clock in the morning has total discretion. Just like in any other encounter with an offender, they've got the discretion to issue a civil citation or not. And how you conduct yourself, whether you're compliant and you're expressing some form of, oh gee, I messed up, that's going to be very critical as to how that officer perceives whether you should receive a civil citation or not. So, we really are looking for that person who has just, for whatever the circumstance is, whatever's going on in their life at that point, they just made a stupid mistake and ended up committing a crime.
And in the end, we want to keep them out of the system, because the criminal justice system can be frustrating for people, and it also can be a life changer.
That's correct.
So I think that is definitely something we need to do. Well, I appreciate you coming in and taking time out of your day. This is an excellent program. Hopefully it will continue to go in the way that it is, and you guys have done a great job. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. That's it for this episode of City Law, City Justice. Please remember, if you see something, say something, do something. We'll see you next time.